The story of Megan Meier is maybe one that you've heard before. I think it's quite famous, however at the same time, school was also started, at least over here, but I think in America and other countries, it's probably very similar right now. And because it started, we always have to remember there are some students out there, both guys and girls, who go through a lot of shit online. Cyberbullying in specific, where people want to make your life a living hell until the point that you kill yourself. But this was also a case where someone told this girl that she basically had to take her own life because the world would be better off without her. Now, saying stuff like that, it's absolutely insane to even say that online to other people, but it happens. But this is not just a case of suicide, it's also kind of a really weird, bizarre case in the end, when they started investigating into it a little bit further. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, Megan Meier was born on November 6, 1992. She also had a younger sister, and from the 3rd grade, after she had told her mother she had wanted to kill herself, she had been under the care of a psychiatrist. She had been prescribed an antidepressant that had a possible side effect of increasing suicide risk in young people. Now, this is something that I've heard before from other people who take medication, that they always have to be very careful about the side effects, but it actually disturbs me so much knowing that there are antidepressants. It actually also reminds me of people, for example, that that don't need the medication because they're necessarily like depressed, but they just wanna, I don't even know how to describe this in English right now, but at least there are many medications that have that side effect. I've heard it from many different people who use all sorts of medication. That's basically what I mean. And that's always kind of weird to me. Like, why would you even describe something that has the fucking risk of increasing your own suicidal thoughts? But it is what it is, I guess. Now, she had been diagnosed with AED and depression and had self-esteem issues regarding her weight. She was described by her parents as a bubbly, goofy girl who enjoyed spending time with her friends and family. Now, after she enrolled into middle school, soon after she apparently also opened up a MySpace account, and there she received messages, supposedly, from a 16-year-old boy, Josh Evans. Meier and Josh became online friends but never met in person or spoke. She thought Josh was attractive, and Meier began to exchange messages with this person. Her family said she seemed to have had her spirits lifted. This person claimed to have moved to the nearby city of O'Fallon and was homeschooled and did not yet have a phone number. A 16-year-old male named Josh Evans was registered on the account used for bullying messages to Meier. But Lori Drew, the mother of Sarah Drew, a former friend of Meier, later admitted creating the MySpace account. So there you go. That's what I mean. Like, we're not really dealing with a typical suicide case, because this is where it gets really weird if you take this into consideration, that a mother of a friend of hers made that account to send these messages to her. At first, also flirting with the girl, right? 13-year-old girl, and a mother figure is flirting with her for some reason, thinking that's funny, then telling her that she should kill herself. What mother in their right mind would even say that? I would think that any normal mother wouldn't even be able to say that to a child, because usually mothers are very protective, right? So it's already fucking bizarre. At the time of the suicide, the Drew and Meier families were neighbors, living 4 doors apart. Lori Drew was aided by Sarah and by Ashley Grills, an 18-year-old employee of Lori. Lori and several others ran the hoaxed account. Witnesses testified that the women intended to use Meier's messages sent to Josh to get information about her and later humiliate her, in retribution for her allegedly spreading gossip about Drew's daughter. So even if she spread gossip, right, it can really annoy someone. It can even hurt them. Maybe it can get them into a lot of trouble if you spread gossip about someone, even if it's a lie, especially if it's a lie. But then still, the idea that a mother would actually go as far as to eventually be involved in what would ultimately become someone's suicide is, again, a little bit too intense. But again, if she spread gossip, I don't know about the gossip. That's something that they can only claim, I guess. That's something she's not as innocent herself. Like with previous suicide cases, there are 2 sides to any story. but I still feel like it's so fucking messed up when it ends with suicide. It's so unnecessary. An unnecessary death is what it is. Now here's where it gets really sad. On the October 16th, 2006, the tone of the messages changed. After Megan got home from school, Taylor Meier signed into MySpace for Megan. She was in a hurry because she had to take her younger daughter, Allison, to the orthodontist. Before she could get to the door, Megan was upset. Josh sent troubling messages to Megan, including one that said, "I don't know if I want to be friends with you anymore because I've heard that you are not very nice to your friends." More messages of this type were sent, and some of Megan's messages were shared with others, and bulletins were posted about her. Tina told her daughter to sign off and went to the orthodontist. She called her daughter to ask her if she signed off, and she didn't. Megan was sobbing hysterically when her mother got home. She was furious that she hadn't signed off. She was shocked at the vulgar language her daughter was firing back. Megan then told her mother, "You're supposed to be my mom, you're supposed to be on my side," and then left from the computer and went upstairs. According to her father Ron and a neighbor who had discussed the hoax with Drew, the last message sent by Josh read, "Everybody in O'Fallon knows who you are. You are a bad person and everybody hates you. Have a shitty rest of your life. The world would be a better place without you." Meier responded saying, "You're the kind of boy a girl would kill herself over." The last few exchanges were made via instant messenger instead of MySpace. When she ran upstairs, she ran into her father. She told him about the trouble and went to her room. Her father went downstairs to the kitchen where he and her mother talked about the cyberbullying and made dinner. 20 minutes later, Tina suddenly froze in mid-sentence and ran up to Meier's room. Meier had hanged herself with a belt in the bedroom closet. Despite attempts to revive her, she was pronounced dead the next day on October 17th, 3 weeks before her 14th birthday. Now this is another point that I actually want to kind of point out. And now it says here, her mother suddenly froze in mid-sentence and ran up to Meier's room. I don't know if that's because she heard a noise after she tried to kill herself, or because it was this gut feeling that she had, which mothers seem to have more often than men. But I just thought it was really interesting because I remember back in 2008 when I was going through this whole suicide ordeal with my own mother, I actually was going to her house that time, actually at the same day that she killed herself. But as I was going through her house, some gut feeling inside me told me I should turn back. I should not go to that house right now because I wouldn't like what I would witness or discover there myself in my own, you know. So nobody else would live there except she was living there, so I would be on my own, this young guy that would suddenly discover something weird happened in this house, you know. Where's my mom? And then she's dead. So it's like these gut feelings that you can have when someone dies. That is pretty interesting because I never realized that that is what I had, and other people experience it as well. But usually I figured, you know, it's only you only hear parents say like when their child suddenly dies that they just can feel it. However, here I was being the child myself, and I could feel that my mother was dead or something fucked up was going on, but I couldn't really explain what it was. But I didn't have the guts like this woman to actually go check it out what it was, because I was like, I don't think I should go there, so I went home again. And then from there on, stuff just went kind of crazy with the police, but that's all besides the point. It's all about Megan Meier's story right now. Sorry about that, but I just thought it was interesting how she pointed that out, and that is actually very, you know, I can recognize that sort of scenario. Now, several weeks after Megan's death, her parents were told that the mother of one of their daughter's friends had created a Josh Evans account. The parent, Lori Drew, who created the fake account, admitted that she and her daughter had the password to the account and characterized the hoax to a reporter as a joke. Initially, Drew denied knowing about the offensive messages that were sent to Meier. She told the police that the account was aimed at gaining Megan's confidence and finding out what Megan felt about her daughter and other people. The neighborhood mother who had told the Meiers that Drew had the hoax account said Lori laughed about it, and she said had intended to mess with Megan. While Drew's name was excluded from most early news stories, CNN disclosed her name through the inclusion of the police report in its broadcast of the story. It was featured on many blogs. It was more than a year between Meier's suicide and the first media report of the internet hoax. The FBI was investigating the matter and had asked the Meier family to refrain from speaking publicly about it to keep the Drews from learning about their investigation. Shortly after the first anniversary of her death, her aunt, Vicky Dunn, saw an article written by Steve Pokin of the Suburban Journals about internet harassment. She contacted him to share Meier's story with him. Once the story broke, it quickly spread to national and international news outlets. And that was back in the day, right? So I know this is kind of an older suicide case, though by now you should realize I share both old and recent cases, just for the sake of sharing the stories of these victims. So the one thing you should know about this entire case is, first of all, the gossip. It might be true, or it might just be a bullshit reason. Then again, because her mother later said that she just wanted to know what Megan felt about her daughter and other people. So there must be a reason why she wanted to know that, because normally you don't randomly want that. So maybe the gossip, her spreading gossip, is true. Still, does that justify the extreme ways that they were using? To us, it might sound kind of silly as an adult person. Like, if a person harasses you online, you're like, I'm gonna block this motherfucker. Fuck you. It's gonna ignore your ass. It's really easy to do that maybe for an adult, but younger people are so impressionable. I remember when I was in high school, or at least in my teenage years, stuff would upset me way more easily than it does now. We always have to remember that this girl was only 13 years old at the time, but then again, I do feel like this mother went a little bit too far. If it was just a mother that used the account, then maybe she could have also been a bit nicer. It's still kind of freaky to say that, but I mean, I hope this mother wouldn't be a complete asshole, because it seems like more people use the account, and these other people might have sent more of the harassments, right? The more of the negative sorts of remarks to this young girl, who knows? So that's all kind of a giant mess to me, what that is all about exactly. Regardless, I hope this girl is resting in peace. It's very sad that she took her own life at her age, because again, it's a person that had her whole life in front of her, but due to negative circumstances, they decided to log out earlier than they probably should have done. Could have done a lot more with their life in general if they could have only stayed strong enough and not give a fuck about others. But hey, that's easier said than done at times. Even for me. As always, dear viewer, have sweet dreams.